I rise to speak to Bill 9, Protecting Alberta's Children Statutes Amendment Act. I feel that Bill 9 is the most awful bill that we've debated in this House. And there are other words to describe it, but none of them are parliamentary. I thought it was Bills 26, 27, and 29 that we debated last fall, which unfairly targeted trans and LGBTQ2S+ youth in healthcare, education, and sports. But no, it's this bill. Because this bill takes away the fundamental rights of Albertans by invoking the Notwithstanding clause to remove the ability of Albertans to legally challenge them on breaches to their fundamental human rights. The government has said this is to protect children, but it's not. It's to protect themselves from potential legal action against laws they already passed that they asserted time and again were constitutional and fine. But if these laws are constitutionally sound, then the Notwithstanding clause is not needed. But they're not constitutionally sound, Mr. Speaker. We've seen several challenges in the courts already. You don't protect people by taking their rights away, Mr. Speaker. That's just ridiculous. It's condescending and a true demonstration that this government has no understanding of what they're actually doing to some of our most vulnerable Albertans. This bill overrides Albertans' protected human rights in the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, the Alberta Bill of Rights, and the Alberta Human Rights Act. That's 3 acts for human rights, all being violated by this government's insistence to insert themselves into the doctor's office, the psychologist's office, the locker room and sports field, the dinner table conversation where parents are trying to support their children to be who they are. The government does not belong in any of those rooms.
That's right.
Parents need to make these decisions with their children and doctors. They don't need the government to share their opinion, especially through legislation. Last year, when we debated these bills, I really focused my debate on Bill 29, the Fairness in Sports Act, because I come from a very athletic part of the province. The Bow Valley has more Olympians per capita than any other community in the country. And although that's intimidating as heck when I'm at the Canmore Nordic Centre trying to cross-country ski, it's also something that I really love about my town. This whole community is sporty. It's so sporty. It's maybe too sporty. If you think you're good at an outdoor sport, come to Canmore, and you will see that you are not good at it at all. I love that about the Bow Valley. It's always challenging. We're always pushing the boundaries. We're always finding new ways to get your heart rate up and enjoy the beautiful Rockies. People move to Canmore and quickly spend all of their disposable income on gear, multiple bikes, ropes, skis, boots, packs, and more, because the amount of fun that is to be had in the Rockies is boundless. We make plans to go outside and climb and hike and bike and ski and paraglide and boat and paddle, and the list goes on and on. And we do that with anyone who wants to go outside with us. It doesn't matter what gender they are or how they identify or whether they were a competitive swimmer in school or whether they just started the sport last week. But it hasn't always been that way, and we are still growing as a community. And tonight I want to share the story of someone who has recently inspired me in many ways. The story of Juliana Howitt, one of my unknown heroines. Juliana Howitt shared her love for the mountains and sports as a guide for more than 40 years, all while hiding her transgender identity for fear of losing her career, her friends, and everything that she had grown around her. In that career, she guided hundreds of people, but perhaps most significantly to me, she was one of the pioneers to develop sport climbing at the back of the lake in Lake Louise. The back of the lake is one of the prettiest climbing crags I've ever climbed in my life. And Juliana set those climbs, all while pretending to be somebody else. It breaks my heart to imagine how difficult that was. And I wonder what she could have done if she was just able to be herself. During those years, Jules was more afraid of being outed as a transgender woman than she was of any of the risks the mountains could throw at her, from rockfall to avalanches or even the odd grizzly bear. In a film released at the Banff Film Festival this year, Beauty in a Fall, Jules talks about how she felt that if people knew who she really was, her successful career and doing what she loved would all come crashing down. Jules was a self-described loner in school and suffered bullying, but in the mountains, she felt confident and free. Now she's sharing her story, hoping it will bring others to feel more comfortable to be who they are and foster connection. She kept her secret to keep her job and avoid the violence that she knew would result if people knew who she was. Imagine that fear. Imagine living every day in fear of being assaulted if you showed people who you are. There are people in this province living that reality every day right now. And this bill makes it worse for them. And that's just the straight up truth, Mr. Speaker. I don't care what your ideology is or how you feel about trans people or transgenderness in the privacy of your own home, but the reality is that this bill makes life worse for people in our society, and our job is to make lives better. And we are not doing that here. So now Jules is using her story to mentor others through a group which aims to break down cultural barriers in alpine sports and foster a sense of belonging for diverse individuals. As a climber, I am eternally grateful to Jules for her work setting some of the most iconic sport routes in the Rockies and pioneering a sport that I love. As a mediocre climber, because I will be honest with you, I'm not that great. But I love it. I also love to think that climbing belongs to everyone. Because if it was only for the elite athletes, it sure as heck wouldn't be me. But I love the challenge. I love the purity of climbing a rock face on my own strength and balance, and the beauty of doing it at the back of the lake is unparalleled. The truth is, the mountains don't care who you are or who you sleep with or what you wear or what pronouns you use or what you like to call yourself, or even if you want to climb in a dress with a harness. It's very uncomfortable. I do not recommend, but hey, you do you. There is something so beautiful and freeing about that space, and truly everyone belongs there. Jules's film was so loved at the film festival in Banff, and so was she. And on the day Bill 9 was introduced, Jules posted this on her Facebook page, quote, "A few days ago, a room full of strangers stood for me after my film. A few cried. They held my story with such kindness that I felt for the first time in my life what it is like to be fully seen as a transgender woman and welcomed without conditions. And today, the Alberta government used the Notwithstanding clause to target trans kids. Not to protect them, not to understand them, but to control them and legislate their futures into someone else's comfort. I need you to hear this from someone who was once a trans kid herself. This kind of legislation is not neutral, it's cruel. It tells a child that something about them is unwanted and that the only way to stay loved is to hide who they are. I survived that message, barely. Not everyone does. So tonight I'm holding two truths that do not belong together: the beauty of a room rising in kindness and the cruelty of a government trying to erase kids who haven't even had a chance to stand up yet. If my story touched you at all, I want you to know this. Somewhere in Alberta, a child is living the beginning of the story I was never meant to survive." Unquote. I am eternally grateful to Jules, not just for the roots that she set, but for having the courage to share her story, because it is an incredible reminder, Mr. Speaker, of what is actually happening when we implement these bills. This September, when Bill 29 came into effect, parents were asked to sign a declaration that their daughters were born as girls at birth. I received dozens of emails from constituents expressing disgust and concern over this idea. Canmore's a sporty place, everybody wants their kids in sports, and parents were just outright outraged, to be honest. That they had to somehow prove their daughter was a girl. It's insulting. Parents of boys weren't asked to do this, just girls. And the fact that anyone can challenge the gender of a girl athlete, at which point the parent would have to prove their child's sex with a record of birth. It is a massive invasion of privacy, and it protects no one. I want to be clear, just as I was last year, the biggest threat to girls in sports is the risk of being assaulted or treated inappropriately by male coaches and staff. It is not the totally non-existent risk of sharing their sport with a trans girl. Now, this bill actually puts girls further at risk by potentially having to prove their gender to anyone who doubts it. As a woman with daughters, I can tell you how this enrages me and how afraid it makes me for girls. This requirement could actually lead to more abuse of women and girls in sports by coaches and male staff who are already crossing boundaries and inappropriate behavior. Now, girls in sports who are already more vulnerable than boys in sports are becoming even more vulnerable. If you don't have the paperwork, how do you prove you're a girl? What if there isn't time and you want to get out on the field? How do you prove you're a girl? It is awful to put girls in this position and increase risk of promoting inappropriate, potentially abusive behavior. And then to not be able to appeal these requirements through the courts? Ew. Just ew. While this may be an unintended consequence, I am not the only mother who has felt it. Enrollment in school sports has been affected. 10 schools in the Edmonton School Board who had soccer girls teams no longer do. Some girls in my riding have refused to sign the form on principle and therefore cannot play sports. Parents may forget to sign the form, and all of this reduces the number of girls that have access to and feel comfortable playing sports in school. And all for some made-up fear that trans girls are somehow making this totally unfair situation. It's absolute garbage. Males in sports truly dominate all professional sports. They get paid more, they get better ice and field time, they get better sponsorship, better facilities, and more recognition. And this bill further contributes to the dominance of men in all aspects of sport by actually excluding women and girls from sports, all women and girls, and then removing the right to appeal and question the legality of these decisions. It is a gross misuse of power. With this bill, the government is blocking a parent's ability to challenge these laws in court. They are preventing parents from defending their children. Yep. I can't even, it just, ugh. To our trans community in Alberta, I see you, I hear you, I affirm you. I appreciate you so deeply. Thank you for being your beautiful self around me and showing me new things in this world. Oh, thank you for being the amazing people that you are. Thank you for sharing your story when you're ready. You have a right to exist as you are, and a right to legally challenge a government who tries to take that away from you. Hell yeah. Just as any Albertan has the right to defend their human rights in a court of law when those rights are being violated, trans people are no different. Trans rights are human rights. It is the simplest way to explain this. The fact that we are here debating this bill is so egregious. I say right now, to our trans community, to our LGBTQ community, to our Pride community across the province, Alberta's New Democrats will never use the Notwithstanding clause to revoke Albertans' fundamental rights. I can't believe I have to say it out loud, but here we are. I truly find it abhorrent that anybody could take away human rights and defend it in the way that this government is doing. Thank you.